Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the kind that creeps in before a fight, but the kind that hangs in the air after something awful has been said. It was the sound that pulled me to the hallway barefoot, still holding a dripping sponge. I had been scrubbing the sink, trying not to exist too loudly, while Ivy entertained her friends. I wasn't supposed to hear it. I'm only with him out of pity. Who else would want him? Ivy's voice, confident, cold, dismissive. Laughter followed, then the clink of a glass. My stomach didn't drop. It flipped like the words hit me physically, like her voice reached inside and switched something off. I didn't move, just stood there in that hallway. Soaked sponge in one hand, the other clenched so hard I left fingernail marks in my palm. The voices from the living room kept going. Jokes, own-liners, little stabs disguised as humor until one voice cut through them. I would, someone said. Ivy laughed. You'd what? I'd want him. That silence returned sharper this time, like a slap no one saw coming. Then came footsteps. Slow, certain, one pair heels on hardwood coming closer. I turned and there she was. Sloane. She wasn't looking at Ivy. She was looking at me. Not with pity, not with discomfort, just something else, like I was human, like she saw me standing there holding my shame in a kitchen towel. She took another step, reached for my hand. I'm sorry she said that, Sloane whispered. But I'm not sorry you heard it. She didn't smile, she didn't cry, she just stood beside me, our hands barely touching. And Ivy, I could hear her shifting on the couch, but for once she had no words. And I was done pretending I didn't hear the things she never meant for me to hear. Sloane's fingers were still lightly resting against mine, like she wasn't sure if I'd pull away or if I even knew how to accept kindness after what I just heard. And honestly, I didn't. My hand was frozen. My heart was pounding somewhere in my throat. I wasn't ready for this moment, and I sure as hell hadn't planned on hearing my own wife humiliate me with an earshot. But there we were, me standing in a soggy shirt from cleaning the sink. Ivy, still lounging with her wine glass, tilted like she was the queen of sarcasm. And Sloane, her best friend, the one who apparently saw something in me my wife never did. Ivy cleared her throat like she was trying to take back control of the room. Okay, she said, all fake sweetness and tight smiles. Can we not make this into some weird after-school drama? It was a joke. Sloane turned to her slow and deliberate. It wasn't funny. It wasn't serious. Ivy fired back. God, it's just how girls talk when we vent. Everyone exaggerates. You really think I don't love him? She looked at me for the first time since I'd appeared. Her eyes did this thing like they scanned me for weakness before softening. She always knew how to switch tones when it suited her. The guilt-trip look, the gentle voice. But I'd heard the real version just minutes before, unfiltered and laughing. You literally said you're only with me out of pity. I replied quietly, that's not venting, that's contempt. The other women on the couch didn't know where to look. One of them pretended to check her phone. Another took a long sip of wine, like that would make her disappear. Ivy shrugged. You're seriously overreacting. I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw someone who had been quietly stripping pieces of me away with a smile. I didn't yell. I didn't storm off. I just said what came to me naturally in that moment. I believed everything you said in private. And now I know I shouldn't have. Sloane didn't let go of my hand. I think you should leave, she told Ivy. That's when Ivy actually laughed loud and sharp. You think you can tell me to leave my own house? It's not her house, I said flatly. It's mine. Bought it 3 years before we got married. You just decorated the walls and took the credit. That shut her up. For a moment, Ivy's face went pale. She glanced at her friends like someone would step in to defend her, but no one said a word. The mood had shifted. That casual cruelty she used like perfume, it wasn't working anymore. I let go of Sloane's hand and walked over to the coffee table where Ivy had left her glass. I picked it up, not to throw it, not to break it, just to pour it down the sink. And as the wine drained away, so did whatever was left of my patience. I turned back and said, if you're only here out of pity, don't stay a second longer. Ivy stood stunned like she couldn't believe I just said that, but she also didn't fight it. She just grabbed her bag, muttering something I didn't catch, and walked toward the door. And Sloane, she stayed. The door closed and everything was suddenly, terrifyingly quiet again. Except this time, I wasn't the one who needed to break the silence. I thought that once Ivy walked out, the tension in the house would vanish with her. I thought maybe I'd finally feel some peace, like I'd stood up for myself and taken back a piece of my dignity. But that's not what happened. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the couch in the shirt I hadn't changed since dinner, just staring at the closed door and wondering how long it had all been fake. I couldn't stop replaying her voice in my head, that smug laugh, that sentence. Who else would want him? And Sloane's voice, cutting through the noise like it had been waiting years to be heard. I would. I didn't know what to make of her. I didn't know if she said it to defend me or because she really meant it. She hadn't left after Ivy stormed out. She stayed for another hour, quietly talking with me about everything I never dared admit aloud. And then, right when the sun was about to rise, she simply said, "Sleep. You need it." And she left. No kiss, no promises, just that. But Ivy came back. Not even 12 hours later, I heard her car pull up. I looked through the blinds and saw her step out, hair tied back, sunglasses covering half her face, and a man I didn't recognize trailing behind her. They were arguing. His arms were waving. Her voice was sharp, desperate. I didn't open the door. She rang the bell, knocked, then started yelling through the door. "Lel, let me in. Please, I just need a minute. He has nothing to do with this, but clearly he did." I opened the door just enough to speak through the gap. "Who is he?" "He's nobody," she said instantly, and that told me everything. He's just someone I've been talking to. But this isn't what you think. Last night was a mistake. I didn't mean what I said. Her eyes darted nervously. The guy behind her looked like he regretted showing up at all. "So what exactly did you mean then?" I asked. "You didn't mean to say it, or you didn't mean it at all?" She hesitated. That pause was enough. "Lol. Please. I messed up. I didn't think you'd hear it. I was venting. You've been so distant lately. I thought maybe if I joked about it." "You weren't joking," I cut in. "And if I've been distant, maybe it's because I've been trying not to suffocate under the weight of never being enough for you." She didn't like that. Her lips tightened. "I came here to make things right, not to be attacked. You didn't come alone." "That's not fair," she snapped. "He just drove me." "Okay. It's not like we're care," I said calmly. "You can be with whoever you want. You already are, but I don't owe you a second chance just because your pride took a hit." Her voice broke a little. "So that's it? You're just done?" "No, I said you were done. I just finally caught up." And with that, I closed the door. I heard her burst into tears on the other side, and I stood there completely still as the guy muttered something awkward and they walked away. I didn't feel better. I didn't feel worse. I just felt clear. But nothing could have prepared me for what came that night, because Sloane came back and she brought something with her that would change the way I saw everything, including myself. That evening, I was still replaying everything in my head. The knock on the door, Ivy's face when she realized I wasn't going to beg her to stay. The stranger behind her looking like he'd walked into the wrong argument. I hadn't processed it all yet. I was just floating, moving from one room to the next, like a guest in my own house. Then, just after sunset, I noticed something. A small white envelope tucked between the couch cushions. At first, I thought it was some leftover card or maybe a receipt from the night before. But when I pulled it out, I saw my name written in Ivy's handwriting. Only it wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Sloane. And that did something to me. Something cold. I held it there for a second, unsure if I should open it. It wasn't mine, technically, but she left it in my home, and it had my name on the back, just crossed out like I wasn't even the final thought in the room anymore. So yeah, I opened it. Inside was a short note, no greeting, no apology, just pure, unfiltered venom. "You always wanted what I had. You always thought you were the better choice. Well, here he is. Go ahead, take him. But don't forget, I'm the one he chased for years. Enjoy his scraps." I stared at it. I didn't even feel hurt at first, just stunned at the sheer pettiness of it. Ivy didn't leave that letter to explain anything. She left it to win something, to mark territory she never even wanted. I wasn't a person to her. I was a prize she didn't want anymore, but also didn't want anyone else to touch. I folded the letter and sat with it for a while. I didn't call Sloane. I didn't text. I didn't know how to feel. What if Sloane really had wanted me all along? Was I just some twisted battleground between two women who used to be close? Was I still a person, or was I just being passed around like some emotional rebound trophy? That's the part that broke me. It was never about me. It was about control. I could have burned the letter, thrown it out, but instead I slid it into a drawer in the hallway next to the takeout menus and old batteries and decided I needed to know the truth. So when the doorbell rang 20 minutes later, I didn't hesitate. I opened the door. Sloane stood there, no makeup, hair tied up, holding a small box. Her face was unreadable. "I need to show you something," she said, her voice quieter than usual. "What is it?" I asked, my fingers twitching. She looked at me for a long second before stepping inside. "It's about Ivy," she said, "and it's about what she's been doing for longer than you realize." That was the moment I stopped wondering if I had overreacted, because the box in her hands, it held everything. And the moment she opened it, I finally understood who my wife really was. Sloane walked in slowly, carefully, like she was holding not just a box, but a truth too heavy for words. She sat down without asking and placed the small cardboard container on my coffee table. For a second, neither of us spoke. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was dense, charged. Whatever she was about to reveal wasn't casual, and I wasn't ready. "I didn't want to be the one to bring this," she finally said, "but Ivy gave me no choice." She opened the box and pulled out a stack of printed photos. Not digital, actual prints, like she went out of her way to have them developed. My stomach sank before I even saw what was on them. She handed me the top photo. Ivy was on a bed, half-dressed, holding a wine glass. She wasn't alone. The man beside her wasn't the guy from the driveway. He wasn't anyone I recognized, but it didn't matter. His hand was on her thigh. Her eyes were locked on his like she hadn't thought of me in years. The timestamp on the bottom corner. It was the exact weekend she told me she was visiting her sick aunt in Arizona. I looked at the next one, then the next, each more damning than the last. Hotel balconies, poolside drinks, kisses, laughter. A vacation she had supposedly taken alone to reset and clear her head. "Why do you have these?" I asked, my voice brittle. Sloane's expression didn't change. "Because she sent them to me." That made me look up. "She meant to brag," she said she finally found someone exciting. She thought I'd be jealous. My brain couldn't process all of it at once. "Ivy sent these to Sloane as some kind of power move." "Why would she think you'd care?" I asked, though the answer was already crawling up my spine. Sloane hesitated. "Because I did care. For a long time before you and Ivy ever dated, I had feelings for you. But I stepped back because you chose her. I never wanted to interfere. I felt like the floor had just tilted beneath me. You never said anything." "I didn't want to be that person," she replied. "And when I saw how she treated you, I thought maybe one day you'd figure it out on your own. But when she sent me those photos, that wasn't just cruelty. That was a declaration. She wanted me to know she never cared about losing you." I stared at the table. The pictures now fanned out like a sick memory game. It wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy, a campaign of humiliation. "So what now?" I asked, not even knowing who I was asking the question to. Sloane, the universe, myself. She leaned forward. "You decide." She made her move. "I'm just here because I won't let her break you down anymore." There was no kiss, no grand confession, just the truth between us. Ugly, raw, undeniable. And for the first time I realized the problem wasn't just that Ivy didn't love me. It was that she enjoyed not loving me. And I had no idea what she would try next. But something told me she wasn't finished. Not even close. I stared at the photos scattered across the table again, but they didn't even register anymore. Sloane had pulled the curtain back on something far darker than infidelity. Ivy didn't just cheat. She used her betrayal as a tool to hurt, to dominate, and worst of all, to mock me in the process. Those prints were trophies. She wanted Sloane to see them, knowing full well what her reaction would be. And me, I was never supposed to know. I was meant to stay clueless, loyal, soft, the backup plan in case her fun didn't work out. But there was more. Sloane reached into the box again and pulled out a small black notebook. It was worn, leather-bound, and tied with a thin strap. She used to carry this everywhere. Left it at my place after one of her wine nights, Sloane said quietly. She placed it in front of me. I hesitated. Part of me felt like I was about to trespass, but another part, the part Ivy had stomped on, needed answers. I opened it. The first few pages were innocent. Quotes, notes, to-do lists. But then it changed. Paragraphs, names, dates, journal-style entries that chronicled her emotional phases. That's what she called them. One page started with, "He cried again." I don't even remember what, about probably nothing. I don't think he realizes how weak he looks when he does that. Another read. "Sometimes I test him just to see how far I can push. He always folds. It's fascinating." And then this one burned into my brain. "I let Mara flirt with him once just to watch him squirm. He got so flustered. He thinks it was accidental. It wasn't. Sloane would have been a better match for him, and I think he knows that, but he chose me, and I love making him regret it silently." My hands shook. Sloane sat across from me, looking down, her face unreadable. "She did this to you on purpose," she whispered. "You didn't fail. You were targeted." I couldn't speak. I had always blamed myself for the distance, for the silence between Ivy and me. I thought I was too sensitive, too needy, not man enough. I spent years trying to fix things she was deliberately breaking. The doorbell rang. It was like a lightning strike in the middle of my storm. Sloane looked at me, expecting anyone. I shook my head and got up slowly, walking to the door with the notebook still in my hand. I looked through the peephole. It was Ivy again, but she wasn't alone this time either. Behind her stood my mother, and the look on her face. It wasn't confusion, it was disappointment. I opened the door halfway. "What is this?" Ivy forced a sad smile and said, "We need to talk, all of us." My mom looked past me into the house. "Can we come in, Lel?" I didn't know what Ivy had said to her. I didn't know what version of the story she was telling. But the moment she brought my mother into it, I understood something crystal clear. This wasn't about fixing things. It was about saving face. And I was done being the one who gave her that option. I didn't want to let them in. But my mother's face was doing that thing it always did, carrying disappointment before I even had the chance to explain myself. She didn't speak as she walked past me, just gave Sloane a polite nod and sat down like she'd been summoned for a crisis. Ivy followed behind her, composed and rehearsed like she had already decided how the script should go. "I just want to clear the air." Ivy started sitting down directly across from me like we were at a mediation session. I made mistakes, we both know that. But dragging other people into it, spreading lies, that's not fair to anyone. I blinked slowly. Lies. She shot a look at Sloane, then back at me. "You really think she's doing this because she cares about you?" "Lowell, she's always had something to prove. You were just a way to win." Before I could even respond, my mother chimed in. "Ivy told me you've been emotionally unwell lately, Lel. She said you were being influenced by outside forces. Outside forces. Like my own sanity was under investigation." "I'm sorry," I said, standing up. "But you think I imagined the photos she sent to Sloane or the letter or the journal where she bragged about breaking me down over time?" Ivy laughed, a dry fake chuckle that didn't reach her eyes. "He's spiraling," she said to my mother. "You see, I've been trying to help him." My mum turned to me and whispered, "Lel, I raised you to be kind, but maybe you're letting your sensitivity cloud your thinking." That crushed me more than anything Ivy could have said. My mother didn't know what Ivy had done. She hadn't seen the proof. And Ivy was using that, manipulating her version of me, the one who always struggled to assert himself, to paint a picture of fragility and weakness. But Ivy wasn't done. She pulled something out of her purse, papers, official ones. "I've already spoken to an attorney," she said calmly. "If you want to end the marriage, let's do it the proper way, cleanly. No drama. You keep the house. I just want what's fair." "Fair?" I said, my voice cracking after years of lying, of tearing me down behind closed doors. "I never lied," she said, smug. "Now, I just never corrected your assumptions." She stood up. "You can play house with Sloane if you want, but don't pretend you're the victim here. You chose me. You stayed. You ignored all the signs. That's not my fault. It was a chess move. She wasn't here to fix anything. She was here to flip the narrative, make herself look noble, while painting me as the unstable, bitter husband lashing out over a failed marriage. I walked to the hallway drawer, opened it, and pulled out her notebook. I placed it gently on the table in front of her. Then explained this. Ivy stared at it. I watched her face shift, just a flicker. She hadn't expected me to keep it. She thought I would have burned it, cried over it, buried it like a hurt dog, but I didn't. You brought your mother into a lie, I said, turning to her. I'll give her the truth. Sloane stood too, holding her phone. I recorded the meeting just in case. Ivy's eyes narrowed, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear on her face. Not panic, but fear of exposure. She'd come to humiliate me one final time, but I was finally standing, and I wasn't standing alone. Ivy didn't say a word when Sloane placed her phone on the table and hit stop. For a moment, she just stared at the device like it had betrayed her. But no, it wasn't the phone. It was the fact that for once, I wasn't following her script. I wasn't begging. I wasn't defending her. And I wasn't confused. I was standing with proof, with support, and finally with clarity. I came here to offer peace, Ivy said through clenched teeth, glancing at my mother. You came here to manipulate the only person in my life who didn't know the full story, I corrected. But now she does. I turned to my mum, who was still processing everything. I could see the slow dawning horror in her eyes, the way the puzzle pieces of years of subtle control and gaslighting were starting to fall into place. She looked at Ivy, then back at me. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I should have asked you first. It was the only apology I ever needed from her. Ivy stood up, her facade finally slipping. Fine, she hissed. You want to be the victim. Enjoy it. But don't come crawling back when she gets tired of fixing you. Sloane didn't flinch. He doesn't need fixing. He just needed to stop being broken by you. Ivy stormed out, her heels striking the floor like an ending. It wasn't dramatic. It was empty. No power, no grip, just a noise. I was finally free to ignore. In the weeks that followed, I filed for divorce and attached everything. Photos, journal pages, audio. I didn't do it to destroy her. I did it to protect myself. No more being the punchline in someone else's story. No more waking up with a weight in my chest, wondering if today I'd finally be good enough for someone who saw me as disposable. Sloane didn't become my savior. She became something better, real. She didn't try to rewrite my past. She just helped me face it without flinching. We took it slow, no grand declarations, no rebound fairy tale, just two people quietly learning how to be honest again. And me, I started over with boundaries, with self-respect, with the understanding that love doesn't laugh behind your back and call it venting. I wasn't her burden. I was her warning label. And now I'm someone else entirely. Thanks for following this journey on Reddit Confessions. If you made it to the end, you're the kind of person who sees the whole story and not just the highlight reel. Now it's your turn. Have you ever discovered the truth in a way that changed everything? Share your story in the comments. We want to hear something that shocked you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more true stories that prove real life is stranger than fiction. See you next time.